This is February 19th, 1986. Julie Strong and Martha Hartzog interviewing Dr. Bede Eugene Connor at his home at 3111 East 13th Street in Austin. The topic is Black Enterprise on the 400 block of East 6th Street in Austin between 1890 and 1920.
Well,
San Jacinto and East 6th Street?
No. San Jacinto, and you know where the theater is on San Jacinto, going down the hill to 6th Street.
Is that the Ritz?
And you turned it into something else,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, you come down to San Jacinto,
Going south?
going towards 6th Street.
Oh, okay.
My office was right on the corner of the alley at 607 San Jacinto.
Right.
It's now a Greek cafe.
Yes. I know that place.
Well, that's where my office was. My granddaughter and with two granddaughters and my daughter were visiting me here. And I said, come on, let's go downtown and let me show you how 6th Street has improved. That was known as 6th Street then. And excuse my cigar, I can't smoke anymore, so I just
You kind of chew, huh?
Yeah, I just paid $26 for some cigar to chew on. I like the one that made in San Antonio. And I brought her back there, and it's the dining room. They haven't changed it, but very little. My office reception room was there, and then my private office, and then back further was where they've got a kitchen or something, was the rest of my office. And the fellow is a Greek, and he was born in France. I introduced him to my daughters, and they had studied in France, and they got to talking French there, speaking French, and we didn't get a word in edgewise anymore. They had a wonderful time. Now, and you're doing this literary survey, starting with Delaware drugstore.
In that block between Trinity and Natchez, I believe it is. So, what I'm doing is I know who the businessmen and businesswomen were on that block. I've got a list here of about 90 names of people who were there over the 30-year period of time. Very few of these people were there. Perhaps no one was there for the entire 30-year period of time, but a good number of them were there a long time. So I'm going to be asking you questions. I'd like to know about yourself, first of all. Your history in Austin, and the fact that you were a doctor, and where you were educated, how you decided to become a doctor. I also want to know about your memories of 6th Street at the earliest time that you can remember, and I'll be constantly asking you for dates.
Well, I don't know about the dates, but I can tell you now, if you take it while it's on my mind. I came to Austin in 1937 to take over the practice of Dr. C.H. Christian, who died shortly before I got here. He had written me and asked me to come and take over his practice because he was sick and he wanted to go to the farm. And I was practicing at that time in Cameron, Texas, and had a very good practice, but no money. Our practice extended in a radius of 25 miles four ways. he died about the time cotton picking and gathering was to come off. So I had to wait until I collected my little money before I came over here. He died before I got here. And I came to his funeral.
You did?
And
was that in 1937?
Yes, somewhere yes, pretty close to, 36, I guess. Because I came to the funeral, I came to the funeral to tell them that I couldn't come over here because I had just built a home. In our camera. Beautiful place like this, lodge like this. And I had my money out. I didn't have any money. Country doctor, especially black doctors, didn't have any money back then. I had mules and cows and wagons and things like that that the people had given me on their bill. So Mrs. Christian, after the funeral, while I was by to say, said hello to her, begged me, please come. I will stick with you. It's a good field here, and if you come, you ought to do well. So I went back home and told my wife, and she didn't come out here. So I told her, she said, now what you do, you and your wife and your daughter, Georgia, stay, I have a room upstairs.
This is Mrs. Christian.
Mrs. Christian. Give me this break. And then I know you don't have the money, and if you will come, I'll help you. So I went back home. Miss Connor said, all right, whatever you decide.
So Miss Connor decided to come with you?
No, I left them in Cameron, because I knew I had plenty of food, didn't have any money, but I had plenty of food, and everybody knew them, and the house was just finished, practically new. So I left them enough money to manipulate on until I got settled here. I came up and stayed here about 30 days. And then I went back, got Mr. He was the only Negro trans-country drayman he and a white fellow he had the biggest hauling. It's not like Trailway now, you know. They were little folks, and
they were in Cameron.
No, here.
Here.
And his son was white, assistant dean at Houston Tillotson College. He specialized in some work. But anyway, he hauled my things up here for me. And he had some cold quilts. I used to take quilts and have them lay over the furniture. And
yeah.
All right.
Martha.
Okay. Come in, darling. Don't fall. Yeah.
How you doing,
How you
sir?
doing?
How are
Who is
you?
this now?
Martha Hartzog.
Martha, come on. You two haven't got me here.
I'm helping out.
Yeah.
Helping her out.
Now,
How you doing?
you got enough room there?
Plenty of room.
All right. Now, here's your little thing if you want to say anything.
Oh, good. Are you a little put out
Table.
front?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that enough room in here for you?
That's plenty.
All right, I'm gonna make this real short now. We finally, he brought me over here and he had my little furniture covered with these old quilts. The furniture was as bad as the quilt. They unloaded this stuff out at Miss Christian's house. Now, Miss Christian's home is where, you know where Delaware home is here?
Yes.
one that turned it over to Parenthood.
Yes.
Well, right across the street is the Atlanta Life Insurance Company.
Uh-huh.
That was the Christian home.
I mean, all right.
Yeah. Then I had the room upstairs in the, what we call a loft. We had turned it into. And the first call I had when I got here was on a Sunday night. Dr. Yearwood had a patient by the name of Ms. Sampson.
Uh-huh.
And she lived out in, what's that, Wheatsfield, where the Negro neighborhood is, and the whites are taken in and they've built
West of the west of the university?
Yeah, out
Yes.
12th Street. You go out 12th Street, East 12th.
That's not Wheatsville. Is that Masontown?
This side of Wheatsfield. And that may be
Oh,
called
Clarksville.
Clarksville.
Yeah,
Well, anyway, they got a historic school mark
that's
out
right.
there. Anyhow, I didn't know anything about Austin. He told me how to go, and I finally found this place. Well, at that time, you had to cross a creek.
Mm-hmm.
And the creek runs through there, and it's full of rocks and everything. Finally, I found a house, and saw Miss Sampson, and they were her husband and the family was very nice, and they seemingly were pleased with the services I rendered. She seemed to get better, and I left, found my way back to town. So I don't know what they paid me a little bit. They paid me for the call. I think it was about $3 or $4 for the call. And Dr. Yearwood was the father of Dr. Connie Yearwood,
Right.
who worked in the health department here for years.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I spoke with Dr. Yearwood, and she told me about you.
Yeah, we were formerly married.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that brings us up to that date.
Mhm.
What else you want to know?
Okay, so what Dr. Connors just told me, Martha, is that he came to Austin in 1937 from Cameron, Texas, where, as he says, he was a country doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of patients, but no money.
Yeah. At Kennedy.
Okay, well, one of the things I would like to do is ask you about some of the early doctors whom I know were here, and maybe your tenure here in Austin overlapped with some of these people who were on my block. I'd like to know what you know about them. I'd also like to ask you some questions about how the medical profession among blacks worked around the fact that segregation was in effect, and that hospitals were not, that black doctors didn't have privilege. You were in the middle of it. Okay. I'd like to know.
I located, as I told you, on Sandy Center Street. I met some of the finest men in, yes, darling, in the city. Yeah.
I'll get up and do it.
Sorry. Bye. Now, I remember I'm located at 607 Sandy Center Street.
Okay.
Country doctors here made calls at that time.
Oh, so you didn't have patients coming into your office?
I said we made calls, and patients came to my office.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make calls now.
Right.
So you go to the office. I had the privilege of knowing some of the finest men in the field of medicine, both black and white. Among the whites was Dr. Z.T. Scott, father of actor Zachary Scott.
Would Dr. Scott treat black patients?
Yes. I'm getting to that now.
Uh-huh.
We didn't have it. We had fine relationship. I assisted Dr. Z.T. Scott in surgical cases of mine.
At the hospital?
No. This came later. Dr. Happy Scott was related to Dr. Z.T. Scott. He was also a surgeon.
How is it that Dr. Happy Scott and Dr. Z.T. Scott happened to treat black patients? Was that common?
Well, we're going to get to that black and white business.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. That didn't. You understand now? We got that much. They were in surgery.
Okay.
The big problem was I'm fresh out of medical school and out of a residency in an accredited hospital. I come to Austin, that's supposed to be a city, and I can't take my patients to the only city hospital in town, Breckenridge, and admit them and treat them. That was the basis, all right. I could bring them there and leave them, and they would assign a white doctor to take care of them.
I see.
All right, now, so Dr. Z.T. Scott and I I met him, and he was impressed with me, and I was impressed with him. So I took the matter up with him, and he stuck his neck out to help me. First of all, we wanted to get to the staff. We wanted to become members of the Breckenridge Hospital staff.
Sure.
Where we could see cases, hear the reports on cases, and make contact with the busy leading doctors of that hospital. We were denied that privilege. And this is one of the reasons why. Number one, you can't be a member of the staff of any hospital unless you're a member of the County Medical Society.
And
all right. You can't be a member of the you can't be a member of the American Medical Society unless you're a member of the County Medical Society. See? So the County Medical Society, number one, permits me to be a member of the staff at the city hospital or any hospital. All right. But I wasn't a member of the medical society. So you see, I got to start off and try to open the door in the medical society, see? Got that?
Yes.
All right. Now, there's always a nice thing to have some friends. I discussed this matter with Dr. Z.T. Scott. And we went over, and I said, now, Doctor, you all are making a mistake. He said, what's the matter, Doctor? I said, now, I was trained in a modern, up-to-date hospital in Kansas City General Number 1. It was associated with Kansas City General Number 2, right across the street. It was a city-operated hospital.
That was where you served your internship?
Yeah, internship. All right, he said, I said, now, I'm over here practicing among my people, trying to elevate them in the field of health, try to take care of their illnesses, and I can't continue to give them the very best of medical medical service very long, because I've been out of medical school so many years. I've been out of the hospital so many years, but I have no contacts here in Austin. You see?
So this effectively would cut you out of your peers, contact with your peers.
That's right. It was. I wasn't caring so much about the peers as I was what result I was going to get. My patients were going to get from me. You out of school 3 years, you either lost or you won. You lost your tentative contact with the professors. See, unless you get away to medical school, medical convention, or whatever. See? Oh, I said, now, and we have to look after the health problem of the Negroes here. We call them Negroes, and they call them black now. Now, if we're going to be out of school and no contacts except the contact we have among ourselves, how modern can we be?
Without access to those hospitals.
Without access to not only the hospital, but the medical staff. See, the medical society. So he said, "That's all right, doctor. We'll look after that." He went to work. And the first thing I knew, we got a notice from the staff at Breckenridge that we were permitted to attend. See, attend the staff meetings of Breckenridge Hospital.
Okay, when did this occur, Dr. Connor? About the year.
Honey, I can't tell you that.
Late 1930s, early 40s?
Oh, no, it late 30s.
Okay.
Late 30s. Now, that worked nicely. Then I went to see him again. I said, "Well, doctor, you see, you got to ease in there. You break the ice gently, Westman, to try to thaw it. You can't do it all at once." I said, "Doctor, now, we are listening to the lectures and the things and the possibilities of contact with the doctors. What's the chance of getting into the medical society?" Well, you see, if you made friends, I had a good friend, Dr. I had made contact with some very fine men here. He retired from medicine. He was in tuberculosis. That was his specialty, tuberculosis, chest disease. And
who was this man?
I'm trying to think of it now. He's retired now. But anyway, I'll remember. So I had Dr. Blawstone, Blaustone, Dr. Happy Scott, Dr. Z.T. Scott, and
Blawstone was white?
Yeah, all of these white. This gentleman, can you reach that book right there, darling, right there, and it says the guy.
Which one is
The one next to right there.
This
No,
one?
yeah. Mhm. Dr. Peavy committed suicide, killed himself. He fine old scout. He'd go to town bat for me. He was a big shot at Breckenridge Hospital. He was in surgery.
He would treat black patients too.
Oh, they made their money off of black patients. Until we came in here, they cut some of that out.
Yeah.
See, they were running. They had the day. Dr. Z.T. Scott didn't. Z.T. Scott didn't. He would operate on them, but he wasn't looking for practice of it.
And that was
But
one reason
Dr.
that they cut him out, was
Yeah.
so they could control the
Dr.
income.
Dryden controlled the black practice over here. Dr. Dryden.
Dr.
Bud
Dryden.
Bud
Dryden.
Dryden.
I remember when he
He's
was on
my
the city
best
council.
friend.
Uh-huh.
And he said, "Doc, you killing me." He said, "What's the matter?" "You my biggest competitor."
Competitor.
He said, "Now what he had is a black nurse that knew all the people, and we'd operate on them or anything like that. Then if any of them died, he and the nurse would go to the funeral. See, to the patient's funeral.
So all the survivors would see them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right.
But I beat Dr. Dryden, and I was talker. Dryden couldn't talk. I made all the churches. I built all the clubs. I knew all the riff-raff and the high class and the muck-to-muck, and we fought each other, and it but very nicely.
You and Dr. Dryden?
Yeah, we were good friends. And we were eating the other day at one of the cafeterias. We stopped eating. "Hey, Dr. Connor," and we chat. But anyway, that's the way that thing.
Well, now, how did the black doctors who lived and worked in like the teens and 20s, you must have known some of them when you got here. They were still practicing. Dr. Gibbons and Dr. How did they keep their practices going? What did they have to do?
They worked, but they had their practice. We had a certain.
Yeah.
We didn't have trouble about the practice. But there was something, let me tell you one, and I guess I'm among the whites too. There were certain, wait a minute, blacks, Negroes that I couldn't go in to see.
Why not?
I wasn't big enough. I was too little. I just came to town. I had no reputation. Dr. Yearwood had been here for years, Dr. Gibbons, and
They had them.
They had
Right.
them, and that not only did they have them, they didn't only have them, but they didn't have them sometimes. See,
Yeah.
they now and then other guy, male clerks, teachers, preachers, all that bunch wouldn't go to black doctors. He doesn't know enough.
Oh, really?
Now, he didn't say it, but I
So
told
the
him.
educated blacks you're talking about.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. The educated blacks.
They wanted to
My
work out.
pastor, my principal, and all of them. But that's all right. I fixed it.
So that's one reason why the white doctors were doing so well
They-
off the
they
black
were-
clientele.
They would go there, and I was getting $3 and $2, not more than 5, and they got 5 up to 10. That's about as much as he was able to pay. And they got swing. If he got hurt on the job, white doctor was in on the insurance. The insurance board, accident board. He got that patient. One of my good friends was a doctor at not only that place, but they had different places that they were the doctors for. Nighthawk. A good friend of mine, Dr. Tadaro, was the doctor down at Nighthawk, one of the Nighthawks.
So certain businesses.
So if you get hurt or anything, you go to the company doctor, Dr. Tadaro, see? Dr. Smith, and a lot of the doctors got these positions. Now, there was a long time before Negroes ever worked at BD&O. It was not until old man blind, deaf, and orphan school.
Oh yeah, the black.
Yeah, the black one that right after. The principal who had been there for years died, and they got another one, younger man, who became principal of that BD&O. And he put me and Dr. Sidney White, Dennis Stone, and Negro nurse in charge. And I stayed there for 12, 15 years.
So it was very important for a doctor, be he black or white, to get that foot into the door of a business or an institution, because that amplified your access to potential clients.
Yeah, it gave you a steady client base.
Yes, yeah. Well, now you see the advantage that the company doctor had. Now you take old man he's dead now, but anyhow, he was surgeon for railroads, companies, and things of that sort. And he had that. He didn't have to worry about any private practice.
Is it your impression that that sort of network existed before you came to Austin?
Oh yeah,
all the way back to 1910.
Yeah, it still exists. Still exists, and we have to be able to break into it. See, well, I never did get into the industrial medicine. See, because I was so busy with my private business. I had the school, and I had my private medicine. So I was getting along pretty good, but not making any money. See,
because you were still too new in town.
No. You just weren't in the mainstream. You got to get in it. I'm dealing with a bunch of poor black folks over here.
You got to get those rich clients.
Now you got to get a cross section. Negroes from all. The teachers are about the highest paid.
Yeah.
And the preacher, well, he got some money. But among our people, we just didn't have any until the war broke out. When the war broke out, everybody was making money. And patent leather shoes, and these hot saffron mark suits. You know, when he worked for the government, he's making money, which he never made before. The patients I used to have were cooks that lived in, and they were doing fine, lived in the garage, up over the garage, where for some of the rich families. See, Austin...
But they could only pay you $1 or $2.
Well, yeah, but they didn't have much to pay. Austin was always... Were you born already?
No.
Austin was made up when I came here, and even before, of about 6 rich families. They controlled Austin. And it was not until Mr. Miller, when Miller was made mayor, that Austin made a little progress. And it did not move
toward diversifying the control.
He
spreading it out.
Deal.
They kept him back. He had money, but he has political power. But the thing that started Austin off, was the man that owned the Lincoln Lincoln Automobile Company.
Mayor Butler.
Not
No.
Butler. He's the one that he owned
Roy Butler?
Roy Butler.
Roy Butler.
Yeah, he owned the brewing company.
Yeah.
And he was big man, and he reached out and got one of our black boys and got him on the council, for which he didn't do a doggone thing. He could have at least helped us.
Who was that?
Whatever his name is.
Snell.
No, not Snell. The first.
Oh, the one who was with IBM or something. The one who was real.
Yeah.
Real good looking and.
Well, I don't know how good looking he was, but
Well, but I mean, he's
made
large
me
and
sick.
he was, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't stand it. But
I guess it was in the
anyway,
1940s, Dr.
No, this was in the 60s.
that's doing Butler's.
That was during the 60s.
When Mr. Butler
Yeah,
was,
I remember him.
was
He was the first. That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
he was the first. Now you understand? Now you know, being on the council or anything like that, you don't have it all, but you can be diplomatic enough to. I work with you for what you do. You work with me for what I
Sure.
do. Now that's the way Snell has done.
Yeah.
Snell is smooth, and he's in a hot spot over there with the county, but he's really doing the job. You ought to go out there and look at that plant where the trucks are. The office clean, intelligent people that working on the staff, and the guy that drives the truck got a pair of uniform on that's been washed and pressed.
Now, in terms of the network with for instance, with the older doctors when you arrived, were they helpful to the young man coming in on the scene?
They were helpful to me because I knew how to approach them and deal with them. And I told them what our problem was. The first thing to do was to open up Breckenridge Hospital. And in order to do that, we'd have to get in the County Medical Society.
Well, were you the first one to have this idea to open up Breckenridge
I was the one
Hospital?
that started the fight.
Well, how did Givens and Yerwood and those people, how did they become successful?
Well, you mean the old man or the daughter?
The old man.
The old man, well, they just came here and just like I was down in the country. I was on a Negro doctor down there, and of course I had sense enough to work with the white doctors who were already there, were in power, and as a result, a lot of them didn't want to treat the blacks, see, except on occasion.
A lot of the white doctors whom you were working
Down
with
in the
country.
You see, and finally, you got to give something to get something.
My daddy used to say you got to go along to get along.
That's right. And I went down there, not trying to get into this. I went down there, darling, and started a health program, American Benevolent Health Society.
Where did you start this?
At Cameron, Texas.
Oh.
See, now they had just started a hospitalization insurance company here in Austin. It was young. That hadn't.
Was it for blacks or for everybody?
White. It was white. See, it was for everybody, but the white started it. See, the hospitalization insurance. Now, I didn't have any money. The people didn't have any money, but we started what is known as American Benevolent Health Society. I took my secretary, trained her as a nurse. Simple things about nursing.
Yeah, you were in medical school, so in the early 30s or the mid 30s. Now, how did your teachers prepare you as somebody who's going to be a black doctor? Did they prepare you at all for sort of the realities of what your practice would be like?
They didn't prepare as for black doctors. They prepared us. Harry is one of the best schools for a young man to go through medical school. We didn't have all the fancy equipment. Mm-hmm. We didn't have the fancy professors and research. We knew bedside manners. Mm-hmm. We knew how to contact patients. We were dedicated to try to find out what was wrong with mm-hmm. the patient. And if we didn't know, we were taught to seek information from somebody else, and if he couldn't get it from him, get it some way, read, keep up, and that's where
that's good advice for anything.
Yeah, that's what we did. Now, we had a reputation of having the best bedside manner for general practitioners. We knew how to go in and get into the mind and heart of the patient, and we were dedicated to it. And some of the things I find today, for Dr. So-and-so, he's a specialist in the foot or the eye or the nose or the gut, and he just walks in, and I have one of my friends treat me, and sit up on the table, doctor, my blood pressure. She had to put the stethoscope up on her, and I said, hell, don't put that thing on my shirt. You can't hear my heart. He just died laughing. He said, all right now.
Well, why did you decide you wanted to be a doctor?
Well, I've always wanted to be a doctor. From my uncle was a doctor in Waco, Dr. G.S. Connolly. A good one, a well-trained, well-educated man.
He went to a medical school?
Yeah, he went to Flint.
Flint?
Flint Medical School. We didn't have but two schools for Negroes to go to.
What were they, Dr.
That was Meharry Medical College and Howard University, mm-hmm. and also Flint College at Flint University of Flint. They call it university. They had a medical department that's down in New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you grow up in Waco, or did you grow up in
No. I came from the country, out from Texarkana, and born in a log cabin out there. And my father was a farmer and a country school teacher. My mother was a country school teacher, and he had so many children. And Mama had so many children by the first husband. Their husband and wife died. Mm-hmm. And they left 17 little ugly brats there. When Mama they met in Hope, Arkansas, mm-hmm. at a convention. You know, you had associations and all. So they met and courted and got married. Mm-hmm. Papa needed to get married, all them children. And Mama was saying, my mother was mother for both of these 7 children. And my half-brother that died not long ago was a babe in arms when Mama took him. Oh. And he couldn't say Miss Queen. Her name was Queen Fowler Connor. And he couldn't say Miss Queen. He said Miss Jean. And you will see all those kids, brown, yellow, and everywhere they're all together. You wouldn't know that they weren't the same children, except you call them by their name. Mm-hmm. And that's my theory about this race business. We had 17 of them. Every doggone one of those kids had a different attitude, a different outlook, mm-hmm. a different color. Their hair was different. My sister that died not long ago, she was brighter than you are, and has traveled all over the United States. But then they had some blacker than that thing. Mm-hmm. Well, but every one of them were Connors, mm-hmm. and every one of them came under the same rules and regulations of that family if they stayed there.
Do they all get education?
And they got education if they wanted it. Every one of them got it except one. Douglas, that baby boy that Mama read. But he was a mechanic, a genius. He could tear a car to pieces, put it back together, and couldn't write his own name.
Well, yeah, there are people, everybody's.
And you couldn't beat him. You couldn't beat him out of anything. Come on, I'm rambling
would
now.
you go
Whatever.
to see your uncle in Waco, and that's where you decided you'd be a doctor?
No, I went to see my uncle. But where I got an impression to be a doctor was Dr. G.U. out on and smell and stuff all out. And I'd follow him around. And he inspired me to be a doctor.
Cool.
Now, wait a minute. One more. See, I see why I don't believe in this black and white business. A man by the name of Marshall, I don't believe I want to use his name there. Mr. Marshall had a liver failure, and he was stiff-legged. He wouldn't just walk like that because he had chronic arthritis and associated with rheumatism, and he was a great hunter, sportsman. He rode two kind of horses. He had a bay mare and a gray speckled mare. And he was Irish, a distinguished gentleman. And he ran this liver stable, and he never married. He had his room down at the stable, about twice the size of it. And I was his boy. He called me Beat. He never said Beatty. Beatty, Eugene Connor is my name. He called me Beat. And my mother prepared his food for us. He'd like to go hunting, and he'd come back with squirrels and rabbits and things of that sort. And he'd call down there and said, "Tell Beat to come down here." All right. I'd go down there, and he would, I said, "Oh, I know I'm going to eat tonight." Mama would prepare the food, and I'd take it down there. Get big old tray full of food. He'd eat 2 or 3 pieces of it. He'd take this home and eat it. Yes, sir. And now, every year he gets sick. And it's just near Christmas time. It looks like he would go hunting and get exposed or something. Yeah. And he'd get near Christmas. I said, "Thank you, Jesus." And no man wanted to. He'd have it so bad. The doctor would give him all this medicine and stuff and wasn't doing him a bit of good. Still hurting. And he'd make me stay there with him. I slept on the floor, right by his bedside, and I'd go home and make up some medicine of my own. Plaster and put it on his knee, and Mom would help me with it. And he got better. Yeah. So he stuck with me through thick and thin. Anything I wanted, he never forgot me.
Did he help you go to medical
school? He
school?
said, "B, I'm going to college now. I finished high school. I'm going to Bishop College." I wasn't ready to go there. See, wasn't ready at all because I didn't have the background. You don't talk about Negro, appreciating Negro history week. It's worth $1 million. You don't know where we come from. We've had a time. I went to a one-horse school that didn't have a principal that had only finished high school. And we only went to the 7th grade. And I graduated from there. I'm going to Bishop College, and Bishop College was just a little second-rate college, but it was good. Didn't have but they had wonderful teachers there, and I wasn't qualified then. Here I am trying to study and read Caesar when I haven't had first-year Latin. Here I'm trying to fool with Caesar and Latin when I don't have a good foundation in English. You see?
Did this Mr. Marshall help you any in college?
Mr.
Financially?
Marshall helped me every way, financially and spiritually, and always let me know the door's going to be open for you.
Was he white or black?
He was white Irishman. A wonderful fellow. And when I get disgusted, I remember one night we were playing music out at the Spring Lake Park, and some of the guys didn't like Gordon Harrison, our pianist, and they dressed up like cute club players, and broke up the dance and took the pianist out, Gordon, and whipped him just to keep him. See, whites were crazy about him. He would hang around the drugstore and play the piano, and the rich white women and men were crazy about him. He played at the clubs and everything, and some of them didn't like it. And they will teach it, the lesson, and it scared the devil out of me. And I ran off and left my drum, and it was 5 miles from my home to the park where the park where we were playing. And I was a kid in but anyhow, it goes to show you, this man stuck with me and stuck with all of our people. But he had to do it quietly. He couldn't pretend to be of interest to any of us, and because it was just against the rules and regulations. But when things were bad, he always encouraged me.
Dr. Connor, I want to ask you some questions about some of these people, some of these early doctors, see if you knew any of them. You ever heard of O.B. Neal in Austin? J.F. McKinley?
I know of him.
What do you know about him?
I don't know.
He was here in Austin?
I don't know. Well, the one, was he in Austin?
I think he was. John F. McKinley.
Well, here's a list of all the doctors here.
This would have been in what decade?
This would have been in the 1890s and early 1900s.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm going to go way back.
Can you tell
No.
what our years were? 1890 to 1920
No.
is what we're looking at.
How about John H. Stevens?
No.
You don't know John Stevens?
Dr. Stevens, there was the black doctor?
Yes.
Yes, I know him. I didn't know him, but I know of him. He had a son that lived lived over in this part of town.
Is that son deceased now?
I don't know whether he ought to be old enough to be deceased.
Was that James
He
Stevens?
used to work for Scarborough.
His name was James?
I think so.
But you think he might be alive?
I don't know.
What do you know about Dr. Stevens?
Nothing.
Anything?
Because he was dead before I came.
What about James D. Davis? You ever heard of him?
Dr. Davis? No, he was before my day.
E.W.D. Abner?
Abner was a prominent physician here. He was connected with American woodmen. And he's a big, large man.
Where was he from? Do you know?
No, I don't. But he was a church worker, community worker.
What church?
I think he belonged to. Let me get this thing straight. I don't know. I think it was my church, Ebenezer Baptist Church, back then in the day. I think he belonged to Ebenezer.
You don't know where he was from, or you know his
No.
wife's name? Wife's name?
No.
Children?
See, they were dead before I came.
What about Thomas Webster?
Dr. Webster, he's from Waco, wasn't he?
Well, he returned. I know that he went to Waco after he left Austin, but that's all I know.
Oh, well, I knew him. He's a very brilliant, little short fellow, bow-legged, very good doctor. and he practiced medicine in Waco during my day there. He was on the square.
Do you know anything about his education or where he was from?
No, I don't know where he's from, but I think he was from Meharry. I'm in medical school.
Right.
Most of those fellows were from Meharry or Flint. One of the two.
Do you remember a wife's name or children?
Of
Webster?
No.
Do you ever remember that he might have run a drugstore in Waco?
He didn't run a drugstore. Dr.
Lashwa?
No, not Delashwa was in Austin. The one you talked about. Webster was in Waco.
Right.
He had his office up over the drugstore there, Mecca drugstore.
Over Mecca drugstore.
Yeah, it was. It was near Mecca drugstore, on Bridge Street. I think it meant it was on Bridge, or right down the street from Mecca.
But as far as you know, he had no association with that drugstore. He just happened to be located above the drugstore.
Well, he's located either above it or near it.
Yeah.
But he sent his prescriptions there.
Yeah, but he didn't have a ownership or anything.
No, not that I know of. Now,
you know when he died?
No, I don't.
Do you know if he died in Waco?
He died in Waco. His son worked for my brother-in-law, Dr. Clemens. We call him doctor.
Do you know?
Pharmacist. Webster was a soda jerker there for pharmacist Clemens. And
where, in Waco?
In Waco, during his father's lifetime and after his death.
Do you know if he's still alive?
I don't know.
What was his son's name?
I don't know that either. I don't remember.
Does the name Hortense ring a bell?
Hortense? Hortense who?
Webster?
No, is that his daughter or wife?
Supposed to be. Daughter.
Daughter? I think he had a girl and a boy. But I don't know.
Okay, your impression is that he was a general practitioner, right?
Who? His
Webster.
father?
Dr. Webster.
Yeah. Little short guy. Good man. Good bow-legged, brown skin. Yeah. You see, he had been there a long time before I came. I came there in 19.
To Waco.
Yeah.
He had been in Waco before you got there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He and my uncle, Dr. G.S. Connor, were old professional buddies for years. They were there and there.
So he moved away from Austin pretty soon then, pretty early.
Huh?
Dr. Webster moved away from Austin
yeah.
pretty early. What about W.H. Crawford? You ever heard of him?
Dr. Crawford was a member of Ebenezer Baptist Church, a great civic worker, a good doctor, and a full-fledged Baptist, so they tell me. I never did know him.
What made a full-fledged Baptist?
Yeah, baby. He went all out for Baptist. And he was very greatly, I think he was a superintendent of the Sunday school of Ebenezer Baptist Church under the leadership of Reverend Campbell.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that's the dude. Like that.
Do you know if there are any descendants around of Dr. Crawford's?
I don't know.
You know if he had children?
I don't know.
He died pretty young, didn't he?
No. According to what this history, he was a little short, fat fellow.
What?
I know he must have been. If he's over there with Mr. Campbell, he must have been in his 40s or 50s or something like that.
What history did you just refer to? Is there a history of doctors that you know of?
No. There is a history of doctors. Which, what, all doctors?
Austin doctors?
All doctors?
Just Austin?
Oh, Austin.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Are all doctors, if
Not
Austin
mine.
doctors are in.
As far as we didn't have, we have one of the Lone Star State Medical Society. I thought I have a book here about
That 1958 publication?
Yeah, but
Crawford's not in that.
He's not in there.
It's a real spotty publication, unfortunately.
Well, that is done out of young man out of Lubbock.
Out of Lubbock. His name was...
Yeah, I know. We were schoolmates.
Can't remember his name. He ran a hospital out in Lubbock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need old pictures, and we need old photographs from that period, from the 90s to the 20s or late 20s. I know it. We're hurting. We're hurting.
You heard.
Photographs.
You sure heard. No.
Where would they be if who would have them?
Did Mrs. Yearwood?
Did she have any?
Mrs. Yearwood gave all of her materials, and she said she had plenty of materials from her father, who was secretary of the Lone Star Medical Association.
Yeah, she gave...
For 20 years, and she gave all those materials to that Lubbock doctor, who has them in his basement, and she can't get them back from him.
Well, we're going to have to go up there then.
Well, it's all medical society related, but what we don't know is how much about our doctors. I mean, I suspect a lot of our doctors were a member. That was the only black medical association in Texas.
And it's bound to be pictures and stuff.
If she got all that, his son will be glad, I believe, to cooperate with you.
Well, it's the son she's talked to several times, and he says I can put my hands on him immediately, but he never does. And he says they're in the basement.
The way to do is to go up there.
We just have to go up.
Yeah, go up there, and that's on, because that material is it's precious.
It really is.
And but a person is busy. He's got to put someplace, and you don't know. He doesn't know where it is.
See, Dr. Yearwood Sr. was the secretary of that organization from 1922 until his death in 1940. He was the archives resource. He kept all whatever materials exist. They were his. He gave them to Dr. Yearwood Jr., his daughter. Yeah. She loaned them to this man.
I know.
That's the only. I mean, I've been
good. We were schoolmates. Good. I know who you're talking.
Yeah.
His boy will help you. They're nice people.
Yeah, I've got his name.
Call him. He will be glad to cooperate with you. Call him and tell him when you're coming, and he'll help you.
Okay. Do you happen to know the wife of a Seguin doctor? The Seguin doctor is now deceased.
Doctor, she's a big fat yellow woman.
Yellow woman?
Yeah.
She apparently
she's an ex-school teacher. She has a lot of material.
Yes, she does. Do you think she would be helpful?
Yeah.
If I could reach her, I've tried and tried. She has a daughter in San Antonio, and I can't reach her in Seguin. I can't call her name right now, but I have it written down.
Friday.
That's right. Dr. Clarence Friday was his name. Yeah, well, that's the only, those two sources. Well, Chapman and Lubbock. Chapman
and Lubbock.
And Mrs. Friday.
I would contact those two because they've got all the material. Okay. You see, Friday was secretary, and Dr. Yearwood Sr. was secretary. Right. And
see, Friday was secretary after Yearwood
too. Yeah, Friday.
So we've got about 40 years there, from about 1920 to 1960.
I would contact them because they had the material.
Let me ask you another question. I've had the devil of a time. I bet I've called 12 long-distance calls to Meharry College trying to reach someone who can tell me if the doctors on my list went to Meharry, and I can't catch this one woman, and she won't return my calls, and I can't reach her. Do you know of anybody? How long has it been since I called her? One day.
Got a very nice, huh?
One day. I've been trying to get her for 2 weeks.
Well, let me tell you.
Do you know somebody whom I can call and ask about early students?
Wait a minute. they have what is known as the archives
That's
chairman.
What's that person's name?
All right, wait a minute. He interviewed me for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I was up there this summer looking up some material for my book. And he is my buddy. We work like everything.
Oh, this is the Dr. Weber I've heard about.
Yeah,
He founded Holy Cross.
That's right.
Did you help him do that?
I didn't help him found it, but he was there with the nails and hammer.
That was
and
the first black hospital here, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I worked with him. I was the first doctor that had there. I think I had the first patient in there, first death, first delivery, and first surgery. Let's see.
Let me go on and ask you more questions about other doctors, and we'll come back to this name of this archives chairman at Meharry. We need to get that name from you, Dr. Connor, because I'm really just blasted out trying to find this woman.
Well, he'll run it down for you.
Okay. What about Sarah Shelton? Do you know anything about the dentist Sarah Shelton in Austin?
No, I don't. That was before my day.
B.F. Barlow, a dentist?
That name sounds familiar, but it was before my day.
Yeah, it was a long time before your day. He was here just a little while. What about druggist J.J. Stevens?
I know he must be related to this Dr. Stevens, isn't he?
I'm sorry. I always get this confused. It's J.J. Jennings.
Jennings?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Well, he was way back in that time.
You don't know anything about him?
Before my day.
Is it your impression that Jennings had something to do with Delacroix's upbringing?
I don't know whether he was older or what.
Mm-hmm.
Jennings the one he had the drugstore?
He had the drugstore in the same location as Delacroix. And a couple of people have told us that they think there was a link there, either by marriage or Jennings raised Delacroix. I know who Delacroix's father was, and it was not, his name was Lacroix, T.C. Lacroix. He was a bootmaker here in town. I'm trying to find out if there was a connection between them. I suspect that maybe he helped Delacroix get started, and that's what I'm driving at. Okay.
Well, he probably took over. Jennings must have been in the pharmacy business for a long time.
Oh, he was, almost 30 years.
Well, then when Delacroix came out of medical school.
When did Delacroix come out of medical school? Do you know?
No, it's been back there. He and U.S. Young. You got U.S. Young down there?
No, Dr. Young's a little bit too young for us.
Yeah. Oh, you going back from what?
Well, we want to know we know who was on the block up to 1920. Now, that means we're going to miss a lot of big doctors, Yearwood and Christian and J.B. Hill and there are a lot of people whom we're not going to be able to deal with because our cutoff is 1920.
I see.
So, do you know where Dr. Delacroix went to school?
Meharry, I think.
And his training is in pharmacy, though, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And the last one is E.H. Givens.
He's a dentist. He
Yeah.
went to Howard University.
Uh-huh.
Fine fella. Big. He was one of those guys that fought the days, in early days. He and Mayor Miller were big buddies.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's how
Big buddies.
Tall Miller.
So, tell me about E.H. Givens' political activities in Austin at that time. Did he help?
Well, he was the parlor kingfish. You see,
Parlor kingfish?
he was the kingfish, black kingfish of politics.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You see, old man Miller worked, and he and Lyndon Johnson. That's where I got a chance to meet Lyndon Johnson. We had they had a meeting. He was running for something. My grandson corrected me. I had him running for senator, but for Congress. And he was congressman at that time.
Mm-hmm.
He made a speech over at Houston College. It was Sam Houston College at that time. Mm-hmm. And he told us if there's anything he could do for us, let us know. And some of the rich didn't like him, but he was a fine guy. Mm-hmm. He's good old Southern boy, straight from if he didn't like you, you knew it. If he liked you, he'd cut his nose off to stick with you. He stuck with Gibbons, and his Gibbons was crazy about, Speaker of the House.
Sam Rayburn.
Sam Rayburn. That was, and Sam Rayburn was crazy about Lyndon Johnson. Mm-hmm. So that made the combination. Well, they all the way down. He got to be president. He's the cause of him being president.
Yeah, I know.
Lyndon didn't want to run, but this Yankee, Kennedy, as vice president, he wanted to be president, mm-hmm. run as a president. You better go ahead, boy, and take this thing.
Well, what all did Gibbons do? I mean, in general.
Well,
where was he from, first of all?
Austin.
He was from Austin?
I think he was born and raised here. His mother was a school teacher here.
Oh, really? What was her name?
I don't know. This is before my day.
Uh-huh.
This is just what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
And he's from a good family. His father was well thought of here. He was a politician. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm. How did he get started in politics? Did somebody sort of groom him?
Well, no, I guess it started from, Howard University, quite political atmosphere there, and he came on down here and got into it.
You know that he got into politics at Howard, or you?
No,
uh-huh.
I'm assuming that.
Uh-huh.
I can't say that because, see, they were sports. Howardites were sports.
Uh-huh. Was Gibbons?
Yes, sports. He anything from Howard University had a creased suit. I don't care if it was ragged in the back. That suit was creased and that hat was just so.
So they were always looking good?
They were always, yeah. They didn't have much bedside manners, but they knew how to make contact.
Did Dr. Gibbons always wear a creased suit? Did he?
He was always, he wore good things and diamond rings and everything, yeah. And sports, he liked all sports.
Did he participate in?
What kind of sports?
Any kind.
Football, baseball?
Yeah, he loved it all.
Did he participate in any?
Not that I know of.
So when you say Howardites were sports, you mean two things. They were not only dressers, but they were athletic.
No, not necessarily. Yeah, they're just sporty guys, gamble and race horses and all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They're sports.
Uh-huh.
Mahara was poor. See, most of those kids had pretty good finance to go to school. If they didn't, they pressed those suits and made them look like. But Mahara guys, they just a coming old boy from down the country.
Uh-huh.
But we had them when it came to bedside manners and attention to patients.
Yeah, I told her between 1:30 and 2. So
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see, Dr. Connor. I've asked you about all the doctors and dentists and druggists I know about. I'm interested in Gibbons, and we might have to come back and pick your brain some more about Gibbons once we find out exactly who we're going to profile in this exhibit.
I don't know
any descendants of Gibbons around?
Dr. Yerwood ought to be able to give you better information about Gibbons than I did because they were brought up reared around here. or he's older than she was, but she knew more about their family. See, the Givens and the...
Did Givens marry?
Yes, he was married.
To whom?
He married a Mrs. Givens. I can't recall her name, but Connie would know that. And, yeah.
All right. I want to get the name of that person, that contact at Meharry that you know about, so I can short-circuit this
I'm trying to
tracking down our doctors at Meharry. I think a lot of our people went to Meharry, and we want their diplomas, copies of their diplomas, and we want whatever information is in that registrar's office, or was in the registrar's office now in the
yearbooks
archives.
with some cute things about them, you know.
Well, the best thing to do is
I rented one. This is supposed to be a good one for interviewing.
I don't know.
Do you have...
I tell you what would be a good idea to do. Call Dr. Thatcher, S-A-T-C-H-E-R. He's the president of Meharry Medical College. And he will put you in contact. Tell him what you want.
Can I tell him that you told me to call him?
Yeah. Tell him Dr. B.E. Connor, Austin, Texas, ask you to call him. And if he can't give you the, data, he's got the man there.
Yeah, well, he can tell me whom to call.
Yeah.
I just think what I fear is that the woman I've been trying to get in touch with is not going to be able to help
Well,
me.
this man's archives, he ought to be the man to help you.
You said that your daughters went to school in France.
Uh-huh.
Do
My
you know
granddaughters.
your granddaughters?
Yeah.
Did your children go to school abroad?
No, that's my children. My two granddaughters.
But your kids, you didn't send your kids abroad?
I didn't have but one kid, and she's the one who got the it's killing me with the granddaughter. Yeah, I didn't have but one kid.